President Yaradua, you had Aroma Onduaka, who again, Ajumoglobia. Then you come to Goodluck Jonathan, you had Oronto Douglas, of blessed memory. Then that of Baba, we had that Bakari, but it's of let me so rest in peace. Then who do I have now again? Boss Mustafa. There are names that when you hear them, you just attach it to a government. That of Professor Denta O. Denta, we attach his not just to a government, but to the Project Nigeria. Thank you very much for the service you've rendered to this country of ours that has outlived several governments. I've been told to hold on, let the book reviewer come in. So we are talking about the anthem. And Prof, the one the Nigerians sang before the independence, I can sing that one too. The one I just sang, the one you sang from October 1st, 1960 to 1978. The one they sang when British were still here, I can still sing that. I don't know if you have been to the UK or UK, you can sing it. God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. None of them can sing it. Let me just leave it. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save. But after the Queen died, they changed it to King. That's the British anthem. Professor Katuka will join us. I want the book reviewer to be seated before the keynote speaker speaks. Philip Agbese, the author, is a pan-Nigerian that has a Nigerian news platform, a platform that has projected Nigeria in her finest and positive light. Is what they call double portion blessing. Professor Yari Katuka is a book reviewer of IBB University Lapai. Please, can we put the hands together for him? Those of you may be wondering, Katuka is a Nigerian name. And the meaning of Katuka simply means Katuka. Want to hear from me? All right, as we progress, the public presentation of the book, Inside Buhari's War Room. I'd like at this time to respectfully welcome one of Nigeria's renowned scholars, Professor Udenta O. Udenta, for his keynote address. Please, can you put your hands together for him?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We've been here for a while, and it is important for us to set the stage rolling, commence this very important historic event, with this very short keynote address. The most important function will be performed by my brother, Professor Katuka, the book review. Review of this incredible work. I have read the book in a month form, but it's not my responsibility to dissect it. It is solely the job of the reviewer. My duty is simply to give the background, like the backdrop, to the construct of a war room inside BUHARI'S war room. What is a war room? Historic significance of a war room, and then legacy in the making. The first thing we need to note is that the war room is not a country or a nation in a state of war. The war room is a sense of strategic urgency that a government or a leader will deploy in marshalling public resources to tackle or neutralize existential challenges facing a nation. A president mobilizes diplomatic, financial, human, and other environmental capacities with which to intervene on the critical political, economic, and security matters of the day. That is what a war room is. So every presidency has to have a war room, and war room is where presidential power projection is devised, developed, and sent forth to have impact on the lives of our people. Bob Woodward, a brilliant journalist, investigative journalist, who was one of the two that exposed the Watergate crisis in the US in 1972-73 or thereabout, had written wonderful works about different presidencies in the US. I recall the 4 books he wrote about the Bush presidency, Bush the Junior, not the Bush the father, who was a president from 1988 to 1992, but the son, who was president from 2000 or 2001 to 2008, 2009, before Obama. The first is Bush at war. The second is plan of attack. The third is state of denial, Bush at war, part 3. And the final one, the war within, a secret White House history. So the Bush at war, plan of attack, may well narrowly connote to the war against Iraq, against Saddam Hussein. But broadly speaking, it's an investigation into the capacity of the Bush presidency to rise to historic challenge facing the American nation, and maybe to an extent the globe, given the power and the reach of the power of the US. Now, within the war room, we talk about legacy in the making. Buhari has been a president for 7 odd years. By May next year, he's done with his 2 terms. A legacy is defined in spatio-temporal terms. That means space and time. A president operates within the framework of a space called Nigeria. An impact of his presidency must be consequential on the lives of the people. But the presidency flows out of time. Sworn in 29 May 2015, leaving office 29 May or 28 May 2023. Within this space, the geopolitics called Nigeria, and an 8-year time frame, Buhari must have marshaled resources, deploy personnel in order to create his legacy. And that legacy is driven by the vibrancy, vitality, and coherence of the war room he has inside the presidential villa. That's the relationship between the war room and the legacy of the president. The war room is where he articulates policies, devises strategies, marshals his plan in order to have an enduring legacy. Within the space and time of being a president, that legacy will mature and grow. Even when he's left office, and decades even when he's no more, the legacy will be referenced as one of the hallmarks of our national transformation. In talking about legacies, which is important to the president, you hear him saying, I've done my best for the country. Running Nigeria is a daunting task. The difficulties are enormous and overwhelming, but I've done the best I can. It is not for me to render judgment on myself. It is for generations to even come that we give the full account of my presidency. I recall what happened when again Bush the younger was asked with the fiasco of the Iraq war, the discovery of no weapons of mass destruction. The entire world apparently was deceived by why Iraq was invaded, Saddam Hussein removed from office and ultimately assassinated. Who said, I can't comment about my own legacy. It is too new. Even the legacies of Lincoln and Washington, the founding presidents of US, have still been litigated. More so mine. Washington, that is George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. These are the great pantheons of American, humanity and civilization. These are people who, in the past, will never suffer even a modicum of protest or a modicum of protest or criticism. But what is going on today under the woke culture in the US? Abraham Lincoln is being assailed. He's being condemned. Thomas Jefferson is being accused. All of them of being slave owners. So the words of Bush has become very prophetic. Even the great founders of the American state are still being the relevance of their legacy to American civilization. The second one I can think about in terms of reevaluation of legacy, our former military president. Whenever you remember, you remember June 12th annulment. A minus. Country died in detention. Abacha subsequently died. I died actually before Abiola, a month before Abiola. Salami Abubakar came to power. The rest is history. But Babangina's legacy, which people like us criticize harshly, I suffered 6 detentions under the late General Sani Abacha, fighting for democracy in Nigeria, all because of the annulment of the June 12th election by General Babangida. And this is presidency annulled it. Whether directly or indirectly, he annulled the election under his presidency. One can say that if you look at Babangida's legacy, it becomes a matter of singularity. The singular decision to annul the June 12th election that troubled the nation, led to a lot of tragic consequences. But then, that is not his legacies. For those of us who attacked him vehemently and criticized him, in 30 years' time, it is important to reevaluate his own legacy. Before the emergence of some other parties, like in 2015, 2019, elections in Nigeria were run by 2 political parties, essentially PDP, APC, with some other smaller parties. You don't have to disrespect them. Even today, we say have the Labour Party, the NMPP, but the bigger ones being the PDP and the APC. What did Babangida do? 1989, he created 2 political parties for the country. The Social Democratic Party, the National Republican Convention, gave them a constitution, gave them a manifesto, built offices for them at the center, at the states and local government level. A lot of scholars, the radical scholars, criticize this vehemently as being mechanical and not being organic. Parties must be organically rooted in the life of the people and must grow out of their own enterprise, political enterprise, of sense of organization and mobilization. But in the next 20-something years, Nigeria came back to almost a 2-party state. That means Babangida's vision must have been fulfilled even in a different direction. Look at the communication sector. Babangida liberalized it. That's why from NTA being the only national television, to MYTV, to Minaj, to AIT, ultimately now to the explosion of the telecom sector. Look at the banking sector, which is pro-poor. People's Bank, we've forgotten all that. Community Bank, we've forgotten all that. The Road Safety Commission is still enduring as a legacy between him and Wole Soyinka. The list goes on and on. And when he talks about social construction in terms of blueprint for national development or a new social order, the 1987 report of the Political Bureau, which any of you can access, may be the most progressive document since 1960 in the history of Nigeria. One can go on and on, but the point I'm making is that as a harsh critic of Babangida, who tackled every single step he took, who condemned the June 12 annulment, who went to detention for so doing, people like us, I am standing here 30 years later to reevaluate his legacy, to find certain things positive in his own mode of presidential governance that we never saw before. I hope with the case of Muhammadu Buhari, when generations in the next 10, 20 years or more, his legacy today may well be reevaluated, especially those aspects of his legacy that people do not find, positive or nationally endearing. Let me quickly add that legacy is like nation building. You don't build a nation in a day. When a nation is founded, like the way Nigeria was founded in 1914, not by us or our common will, but by the British imposing the structure on us and the geography upon us called Nigeria. It took 1960 for the nation to be refounded as a culmination of the struggle against colonial imperialism from the 1930s, 40s to 50s, accelerated in the late 50s, and ultimately with independence in 1960. That means the nation was refounded in 1960 under the capacity of the founding fathers and mothers of the country who saw us through independence. Many believe that the country was equally refounded again 1970 after the Civil War. Ultimately, 1979, restoration of civil rule, 1999, the commencement of this current democratization journey. So it's like legacy. Legacy is founded by the presidential authority that instituted it. Somewhere down the line, that legacy becomes something else. It grows in dimension and space. Somewhere down the line again, that new legacy which has reconfigured itself further reconfigures. As the nation moves, the legacy moves. That is why today you can say, oh my God, when the third mainland bridge to cater for the traffic between the mainland, symbolic landmark for the larger than as the nation changes. I have to make an amendment. Legacy is actually continuous and continuous. The idea is to and bring out those policies that will not only endure for the moment. So sometimes when the policy the contemporary generation who may see so many things wrong with such a policy, but with time that policy becomes something not even anticipated by the founder or constructor of such a policy. A legacy, therefore, grows out of a successful war room situation. And a legacy in a country like Nigeria must be continuous and not discontinuous. Discontinuous legacy is when a government comes, topples everything a previous government has done, starts on a clean slate, and deploys humongous national resources in starting something afresh. Continuous legacy is when a new government comes in, sees the work of the old regime, of the old order, embraces it for the good of the nation, and builds on such a legacy. One ready example is the second Niger Bridge, which I'm sure is opening today, partially opening today. Conceived possibly towards the end of the Obasanjo, beginning of Yar'Adua government. The blueprint and the technical studies done under the government of, Goodluck Jonathan, with some modest investment, practical investment in terms of engineering works and design, then commenced fully and wholesomely by the government of Buhari. And today, that legacy project is opening partially for the country. That is continuous legacy. President Buhari could have simply said, I don't believe in this second Niger bridge. I don't want my legacy to be tainted with other people's own landmark achievement. I want something to stand alone for me. If I build this second Niger bridge, history will record that I didn't initiate it. Maybe Obasanjo Yeredua did. Jonathan helped in the facilitation. I just did the completion. But patriotism must rise over discontinuous legacies. Patriotism means that you must separate governance from partisanship and politics. And in order to do that, which will benefit the generation today and the generation yet unborn. Once a legacy is founded in this form, it is quite possible that by 2023, when Buhari must have left office, some of the highlights of his own governance model, maybe infrastructure development in the area of railway, airport remodeling, etc., may find some space in the presidency of the successor that may continue to pursue that vision of legacy for the greater good of the country. My final word is that governance is like an encounter with history. When you encounter history, you must embrace it. You must transcend it. A presidency transcends history because it creates a presidential craft that will endure beyond the immediacy of your incumbency. And to transcend history, you must build a very powerful war room. That war room will bring in together the economic issues, political issues, strategic issues, diplomatic issues, and the environmental issues that assail a country. And once the presidential war room is very strong and coherent, you'll be able to use that to have policy trusts that will impact on the life of the people. Those policy trust and investment will shape their legacy. So even when you leave office for years and for decades, your legacy will endure. I suspect that by the time the book reviewer tears into the book, over 400-page work, so many sections and so many chapters, you'll be able to find the strengths of the Buhari war room and the strengths of his presidency. The weaknesses of the war room, the weaknesses of that presidency. In order to merge the two for the greater good of Nigerian people. Because the policy of any government is for the greater good of the people to build a more perfect union that is compassionate, that is inclusive, and is egalitarian in nature. On this note, I rest my keynote address. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, distinguished Professor Udenta. Announcing one of our special guests of honor, is Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Smart Adeyemi, who is looking smart this afternoon. Can we clap for him, please? And next is our book review. I'd like to welcome a professor from the IBB University Lapai, is his base of the Niger State, Professor Yari Katsuka. Please, can we put our hands together for him as he comes forward? Professor Yaki Katsuka. Thank you, sir.
The chairman of this great occasion, Chief Audu Ogwe, which I'm sure is fully represented. His Excellency Kashim Shetima, our very special guest. I'm sure he's still on his way coming. I've been told that distinguished Senator Smart Adeyemi is representing him. The governor's representatives, because I have not seen any governor here, let me hope whether distinguished senator is here representing the governors. So, Your Excellency, it means you are going to wear so many caps here. My colleague, Professor Odunta, an international scholar and a global author who has just given his keynote address. Special distinguished guest. I've seen my mother that is seated calmly. I don't know. I'm sure is representing the women, not only in Africa, but she is representing the woman in the world. Other distinguished invited guests. I want to say it here that book reviewers are to give summary. And I've made to understand that when you keep people too long, you are also going to cause people to sin. People will be bored, and I feel I have to be smart, since we have a distinguished senator that is very smart. Ladies and gentlemen, it was just yesterday I was told that I'm going to serve as a book reviewer. All the same, I have been in the classroom for 40 years, not stop, and I've been an author of almost 15 textbooks. And when they brought the idea that I should be the book reviewer, I actually should know the basic rudiments, the basic ingredients that's supposed to be in the book. Distinguished celebrant, the author of the book, who is also a special honorable to be, is also a chief, a traditional ruler, a title holder in Idoma land. I am sure that he has joined the league of authors, not only in Idoma land, but also Nigeria and the world at large. I feel very encouraged when I also see youths demonstrating their intellectual talents to also help the society to grow. There is an adage that if you want to hide the Nigerian youth, your secret, put that secret in a book. Because Nigerian youth hardly read their books, or most Africans hardly read books. Our thinking is far away from the books, but the secret of the world, the success of the world, have been embedded in these textbooks. I'm so happy to serve as the book reviewer because he's also my brother. He's a brother in the sense that we come from the same region. And completely, gone are the days in the north, you only see scholars either from the southern hemisphere or the eastern part of Nigeria. But today, we want you to clap for him for actually helping the northern region to have authors by now. I feel other youths should also join the queue. Ladies and gentlemen, the book title, BUHARI'S Inside, that is Inside BUHARI'S War Room. Well, that is the literature. It's a concept that requires explanation. But I have actually gone through the book, and I feel that I have to explain. I'll give you the synopsis of the book so that you will not get difficulties in understanding what has been articulated. First and foremost, it is necessary for me to acknowledge the invitation, as earlier mentioned, because I'm here simply for the fact that he has really articulated or bring professionalism in writing as to also explain what our president has been doing. Whether we like it or not, no society can live without leaders. And we are all told that we have to pray for our leaders. we have to actually respect constituted authority. If you are a true believer, definitely you must have to respect the constituted authority. In fact, what he has done is not only to tell Nigerians what our president has been doing, but other international communities will also know in-depthly of what the president has been doing. We also believe that there is no leaders without lapses. Every human being has his own challenges. And we all know that condemnation is not allowed, because even the prophet says he has come not to condemn, isn't it? I can see my clergy people here. But the whole thing is that I know some people who feel that he has written this book to protect the president. And that is why I'm making this comment, so that we should also know that that is his own position. But he should not be condemned. All we know is that he has done something. He has actually created time to articulate something, so that all the contents will be disseminated to other generations that are coming. Well, in academics, we strongly agree or to disagree. It's either we agree to disagree, or we disagree to agree, or agree to disagree. So I feel that he has done well. The author, Honorable Chief Philip Agbese, has actually done well. Well, I have gone through the book. That is a 23 chapters books, and have seen a lot of empirical evidences which has given us balanced understanding of President Muhammadu Buhari. It is also obvious to say that when you look at the whole book, we know that he has said a lot. He has been monitoring the president right from his creation. He has monitored the president. He has gone in-depthly to look at literature written or being articulated of Buhari's. Because I know the author is not up to 60 years. It's not up to 50 years. I know he may not be aware of what happened in the parliamentary system. It's only the distinguished senator that is here that could say something, and some of you, few of you, that can talk about the parliamentary system. And probably our mother here. You may say something about the parliamentary system. But majority here, probably 80%, wouldn't know what happened in the parliamentary system. But the issue here is that the author has also followed in-depthly, getting information about the president, even right from the parliamentary era down to the presidential system. We want to actually say that you should not relent, because at the end, I'm going to also suggest another project for you. And when you look at the chapters, it is obvious that the author has exposed the president, his activities during his birth and after his birth. He has also explained to us his military career, his efforts and achievements were being articulated in that book. He also went further to discuss about the political struggles and leadership of our president. It is obvious that we all know that he was once head of state and later became the president. Because there is differences between being a head of state and being the president. I often hear Nigerians calling Babangida as our president. Babangida never became the president of this country. Babangida, we still addressed him as political scientists. We addressed him as the head of state. Babangida is not the president of this country. He was only the head of state. But Buhari is privileged, our father Buhari is privileged not only to become the head of state, but is also the president. Because he went through the ballot box. Once you go through the ballot box, you are a president. But if you come through the guns, then you are the head of state. But we still give honor to Babangida because he has done a lot for this country. When you also go through the books, you discover that the book was published in a reputable publisher, and all sources cited by the author are all reliable, accurate, and relevant. I've gone through the books and discovered that most of all these sources he cited were all reliable. On the matter of relevance, some will ask, why is it that he wasted his time in writing this book? But the truth still remains is that this content of the book is meant for Nigerians and those in diaspora. There are people that if you ask them in this country who is the president of this country, in fact, some of them will tell you is Babangida. Some will not even tell you Babangida, they will tell you is Abdul Salam. Or somebody may even call the name of a senator representing this constituency. But this book will also help our generation coming. And the book has also highlighted both the prospect and challenges of BUHARI'S administration in the presidential years of practical administration. We know that if you get a copy of the book, you will be sufficient to know that he has been very objective. And the book chapters, he gave account, in-depth account of BUHARI'S policies initiated, the leadership styles, the reforms within the purview of political party manifestos. Most people are politicians, but they don't actually know the party manifestos. But you can now see that no leader can lead without a blueprint. And we all know that policies have been initiated in order to solve the problems of the society. He has also taught us the policies initiated in the regime. He has also mentioned in some chapters, he also mentioned some of the reforms and completely some of the agencies. He created some special agencies in order to realize the policy or policy objectives. Because if you want a policy to be achieved, you must create programs. Because after you create programs, you must also create agencies. Because these agencies will monitor the programs to the actualization of the policies. So the author has taken cognizance of all that I have mentioned. In the summary, if you also go in-depthly to look at what he has actually said in other chapters, he also explained the major problems that Nigeria is facing. In fact, if I ask you what is the major problems of Nigeria now, so many people will say it's corruption. Some people will say it's kidnapping. And others will talk about terrorism. The major problems of Nigeria, what is facing Nigeria is poverty. And in his own book, he did mention what poverty is all about. In his own book, we discover that when you are talking about corruption, when you are talking about armed banditry, kidnapping, and all forms of vices, we know that these are all children of poverty. It is poverty that gave birth to kidnapping. It is poverty. When you don't manage poverty very well, it gives birth to so many children. And these are the children of poverty. So it is very difficult to fight corruption, to fight armed banditry, to also fight kidnapping without fighting poverty. You should know that poverty is the mother of all crimes. Poverty is the mother of all crimes. So when you are fighting other vices, you must first of all manage poverty. In his book, the author also mentioned the strategies on how to manage poverty. And we all know that Mr. President, he has been up and doing in fighting corruption. And you know it is not easy for somebody to fight corruption alone. Because, you see, some people are conflict entrepreneurs. Some people benefit from what? From the weaknesses of the government. And that is why when he came in fact, there was a slogan. It's only that the slogan has actually disappeared. The slogan of the change mantra, isn't it? That was the previous slogan. Change what? Change mantra. And most at times, the president has come to what? To chase the rods, isn't it? To chase away the rods. But from all indication, he has actually tried. The only issue here is that Nigerians also have their peculiar problems. When you are fighting alone, it is difficult to succeed alone. In fact, let me quote from the words of Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker said that if you fight alone, you only celebrate alone and you become sad alone. But when you also fight with other people collectively, and when you succeed, you also smile together. And that is the words of Peter Drucker. So fighting corruption, the author also mentioned the issue of corruption, the strategies adopted in fighting corruption. And we should also know that when we are talking about corruption, in fact, we are saying that it is not that when you steal money, then you are corrupt. Corruption simply means that when you refuse to do the right thing, if you are a governor, when the federal government gives you subvention, and if you keep the salaries without paying, once the salary is being paid after 30 days, if it is paid on the first month or first week of another month, that is corruption. Corruption means you have not done what? The right thing. We don't want to hear any excuse. So, but people, when you say corruption, they will tell you that when you steal money, the mindset is either on misappropriation or embezzlement. Once you embezzle money, and you can now see that the author really mentioned about the strategies the president is using in fighting both political and bureaucratic corruptions. While he is fighting corruptions, others are not cooperating. Because in Nigerian society today, we have made to understand that people respect their immediate communities more than the nation. And that is our major problem. You'll see people want recognition in their traditional communities without recourse to what can I do for Nigerians to be respected. I was in the other country while I was moving in the street, and when I saw some pupils were coming from primary school, one lady threw away so probably a paper on the street. The whole of that group said, "You are disgracing our motherland." But even in Nigeria, you see somebody is in the car, you will drink something, can, and throw it away. And when you tell him what is the problem, he will even abuse you. And that is the major problem. And what is there is that the author really mentioned the predicament of what the Mr. President is actually having. All the same, he also drew our own attention that the effort, the constructive effort that the government has done to the 6th geopolitical zone. We have seen issues about road infrastructural development and revitalization of rural transport system, which he has actually assisted. We also know that if you go to most states today, definitely you witness federal presence. The only problem Nigerians we are facing, we don't appreciate. We never appreciate. And the person you're supposed to hold him responsible, you don't hold him responsible. You go to the one that always keep quiet. You go to the one that is not vocal. You go to the one that can threaten you. And that is the major problem. And that is why we said the author has actually discussed that. In his own book, he also filtered, he also told us in one of the chapters that we know there are problems during democratic festivals. And the democratic festival is coming now. Within 2023, we will have another democratic festival. And completely, the governor, the president, has also done enough to strengthen our democratic process and even boost the international relations with other countries. He kept on saying, the president, that I'm going to hand over power without fear or favor. He has also told us, we all know his characteristics. Everybody knows the president's characteristics. He believes, once he believes in you, he believes in you. And completely, even if he don't listen to gossip, we know that he hardly listens to what? To gossip. Because the author has also explained some of the major characteristics. And one of the efforts he has also made was that he also initiated Independent Electoral Commission Fund, where money will be paid to the commission as to respect the doctrine of autonomy. You can see why he has been doing well. In the book, he also mentioned that. It is also important to take note that even the president, tries to also protect parties, the political parties, because he granted them power constitutionally. He tried to make sure that political parties should handle their own affairs without external intimidations, without external marginalizations. And from other point of view, he has also given the judiciary the mandate to also exercise their own rule of law. So he kept on talking about the rule of law. I can now see that even electoral matters will be handled by the state and federal high court, as mentioned by the author. All the same, he may not have finished his own assessment of Buhari, but I want to also observe, but in as much when we are reviewing a book, there are certain things we also want to suggest that he should do, probably in volume 2. Even though the author has shown intellectual commitment in his findings, he is supposed to explain the models which President Buhari used in fighting corruption. He is supposed to demonstrate a comparative analysis on how corruption is being handled, anti-corruption war is being handled. Let me also give you a comparative studies. You see, the author actually mentioned institutional model, because Buhari adopted, he only used agencies in helping him to fight corruption. But had it been he used the Chinese model or Brazilian model, I believe corruption would have been over. So I want the author, when he wants to write volume 2, he should come out with a comparative analysis, models, on how to fight corruption. You see, Chinese, what we all know, Chinese were struggling too, as Nigerians were also struggling. But we know it's also a very developed economy now. In fact, China's are now here in Nigeria, isn't it? To dictate our own economy, to help us put our economy in good shape. And completely what happened in China, when you get their history, there was a time when they were down economically. When you look at the issue, the history of the Asian tigers, China came out with a policy that is, they arrested all those that have stolen the nation's wealth. And when they arrested all of them, they went through their accounts. And when they discovered that you have 1 billion, the government will tell you, we are going to give you 50,000 naira. If you have 100 million, they will tell you they will give you 50,000 naira. If you have 1 trillion, they will give you 50,000 naira. They arrested all of them and recovered the money. But after they done all these things, they also discovered that the economy was still going down, as how Nigeria is facing now. While they are arresting people, they are taking them to the court, we discover that the situation is still coming down, isn't it, going down? So what they did was that is China now. What they did was, it's okay, let us stop that model. They now have to invite experts, political economists, to advise the government. What do we do now? We arrested those people, but the problem is still in the increase. What do? The political economists now advise the government of China that what you need to do, take all those people that you have arrested. Do you have ministers? They said yes. Tell them, release them, and allow them, ask them where do they want to work again. Don't send them to the prison. Since they are already in the prison, they ask them, all of them believe that they all accepted that the one is a minister, I say he wants to go and become his minister. They release him, go and become minister. The other one said he wants to go and occupy his offices. So they all went back and occupied their offices. And I'm telling you, after 1 month, the economy of China started peaking till this moment. You know why? The person who knows how to steal money knows how to generate revenue. And that is what is now, China is moving now. It was after that they come out with an act that if you steal again, you are going to be killed completely. And that was how the issue of China was tackled. Can we do that in Nigeria here? Can we do that in Nigeria here? And that is the major problem. So completely, I will want the author to come out with a comparative models to suggest in his book, because we have political economists, we have leaders. Probably here we have a president here. So that we need to respect meritocracy, we need to respect professionalism. In fact, if we respect professionalism, definitely we'll move higher from where we are now, isn't it? So we also, in the book, I also want the author, because most of the challenges and the challenges which the president, Master President, faced, he has not mentioned. I would suggest that when he's going to write the next volume, he should also write the issue of executive legislative conflicts in the Nigerian presidential system. Because we want to know where that there are conflicts between the executive and what? And legislatures. I have said this, and that is why distinguished senator is laughing. We want to know that, so that Nigerians want to know, so that that can also help us. Actually, I was invited at the DSS, National Institute for Security Studies, to discuss about the challenges, the causal factor of executive and legislative conflicts in the Nigerian presidential system. We are made to understand that there are problems. In fact, what even gives great problems in our Nigeria is the constitution itself. The constitution, the Nigerian constitution, requires beating. It requires overholding. In fact, most of the major problems that we are facing that the president is facing is within the Nigerian constitution. It is the Nigerian constitution you discover that Master President is an executive, Master President is a lawmaker, Master President is also a judge. It's the only one person. He fused powers. And then we are practicing from what? Presidential system. You see, when you look at the characteristics of parliamentary system, power is being fused, isn't it? Then the presidential system again, especially our own constitution, there is problem. So I want to suggest that the author, when he wants to actually write this volume 2, he should talk about the issue of executive legislative conflicts. And then thirdly, he should also have a chapter on the level of intergovernmental relations. The level of intergovernmental relations in Nigeria. Because he has not actually discussed about the level. You see, we all know local government is not in existence again. Local government is powerless. Because the constitution said that. That is what? That is joint account, isn't it? They have gone to court and completely, in fact, the local government is epileptic. The economic muscles of local government is not strong. In fact, if you see people coming to the local government, they are only coming to find out when are they going to pay salaries. And that's why everybody has gone back to the farm. So ladies and gentlemen, I will also want to say it here that I want to suggest a book. Let me also give you another project. That if, despite the fact you have done your best, I want to suggest a befitting title of the book in the next volume. And the title of the book should be Buhari of Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow. Matters Arising. This is the title of the book that I want you to write on. Buhari of today, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, matters arising. I want to say it here that the book is distanced with evidence of objectivity and will contribute to knowledge for the benefit of Nigerians and international communities. Thank you very much for taking your time.
All right. Can we please put our hands together for our book reviewer, our professor of yesterday, today, and forever, Professor Yaki Katsuka. Please, let's appreciate him. Let's appreciate him. Distinguished Senator Smart, sir, I wonder what you are doing in Abuja, because virtually all your colleagues are campaigning somewhere. They gave us this date, and they gave us this date. We are doing it. We are going to come. Now they are sending message. Bring a copy of the book and the program and come and give to us. Bring a copy of the book. They say we should send picture. We'll send your picture to them. Okay, say you are representing the APC family. Let's laugh for Senator Smart at the end. So, sir, which party are you now? But Smart is a party of Nigeria. He's always by the side of the people. Let's laugh for. He's not really a party personality. Am I lying, sir? His own is humanity. He speaks out when humanity is in questions. He speaks out when Nigeria shakes. He speaks out when men of conscience, he speaks out. So speak out rather. So we don't even see you as a party man per se. We see you as a pan-Nigerian. Please, let's appreciate Senator Smart at DME. Before he gives his remarks, we have our sister agency, National Orientation Agency, the DG is represented here. We'd like to take the goodwill message from the DG of the National Orientation Agency, who is represented in the house by Mrs. Chineye Eze Wuzie. Thank you, ma'am. Please put your hands together for her.
the chairman of the occasion, Chief Audu, were represented, distinguished Senator Smart Adeyemi, the big reviewer, Professor Yari, other distinguished dignitaries present here, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Please permit me to still stand on other existing protocols. Greetings from the Director General, National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Barry, who is unavoidably absent. He is currently on an assignment outside the country. We are happy to share this day in history with you, and we congratulate you because we know that inside Buhari's war room, we know that inside Buhari's war room, seeds of good projects were sown and also pushed forward. And some of the result of which we are seeing here today as some of the interventions on that create jobs and also skill acquisition programs. We're not forgetting the interventions that encourage a procurement of made in Nigerian goods. I want to state that we are the National Orientation Agency. We are ever ready to disseminate information on positive actions that would help in developing the country. That is one. Then also, we're also ready to mobilize and enlighten the youth on active participation in governance. And in the light of that, I would like to call on all segments of the society, especially the youths and those that usually sit on the sideline, on active political participation, especially as we approach the 2023 general elections. And also, the agency is also ready, to always do that. Then we are happy also. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Please let me come for Mrs. Chinye. I hope I'm not murdering the name. I'm very, very careful. No, the botanical name, the one. Ezewuzie. Please, let's appreciate our dear Mrs. Chinye Ezewuzie. Thank you so much, sir. All right, now it has come out to be this way. Senator Smart Adeyemi, once again, appreciate your presence. You are representing His Excellency Senator Ibrahim Shetima, who is campaigning somewhere as we speak. And they all virtually confirmed this day, but this electioneering season, you can't even predict. As he's seated here today, you may see him Benin tomorrow, and you see him Kano next tomorrow, and you see him in Taraba. So thank you so much that they left you behind to cover the gap. So you are sitting in so many shoes, so many governors' shoes, all of them. They've sent your picture to them. They say, hey, he's Smart. Me, I was quarreling one. And he says, Smart is there now. Smart covers all of us. Don't worry. Bring a copy and a book to us. And we said, okay, this is what we are going to do. This is the public presentation of this book. But the launching will come up early next year, sometime next year. The launching proper. Because they are now giving us another date. The launching will come. Let's clap now. We have food to give you, something to eat. So and clapping is a criterion to eat. So I know we are tired. You are now. So this is like the presentation we have just seen. And now we are going to, distinguished Senator Smart is here. At this time, we'll graciously call him up. So are you representing him? Is he just only talk or he give you something? Let's welcome. Is our youth. Even when you see somebody of your youth bracket, you love him. Let's welcome our own there, Smart Adeyemi.
The book reviewer, the representative of the DG. I want to apologize for coming a bit behind schedule. I was actually on my way from ECOWAS Parliament. Why some of us are not here is at the Parliament of West African countries. Call it ECOWAS Parliament. We are sitting in Abuja in the last 2-3 weeks. And a good number of us represent Nigeria. The representation in ECOWAS Parliament is based on population. You know, Nigeria is the giant when you talk about West Africa. So at times I talk to some of my colleagues from West African countries, and I remind them that their countries that they represent are just like a local government in Nigeria. And they ask me why. I say, because we're a nation of about 200 million people. And some of them, they envy us. So some of my colleagues are presently there. I was on my way to see the incoming president, vice president, Chetima, when he said, I should not bother to see him. I should go straight here to represent him and some of my colleagues. So I apologize that I came a bit late. So I'll be speaking briefly about the man who said I should represent him on one hand, and to tell you why I'm delighted to represent Chetima. I'm not going to drag into politics. I'll just talk from my heart. And if you have watched me on the floor of the Senate, I don't pretend on any national issue. I don't pretend on any national issue. Now, I will take some 5-10 minutes to speak as smart as you hear me before I now speak about the message from the incoming vice president of this country. And I will tell you why I say the incoming vice president. I am a third-term senator. This is my third term, so cumulatively about 12 years. And I've had interaction with the best of brains in the Senate. And I can tell you that we are 109 on each assembly. So cumulatively, you can times it times 3. And there are just 3 of them that I respect. Not out of rudeness, but I respect them because of the content and who they are. And one of the best 3 senators that I've met is Kashim Shettima. Highly intelligent man, highly articulate, highly visionary, and is a man of conscience. You know, when people talk about some Nigerians, you have not read about them, you have not interacted with them. So you go by what people say about them. Shettima is a different kind of a Nigerian. He doesn't discriminate and is highly courageous. And that's a typical Nigerian. By extension, the Kanuri man. The Kanuri man is a man that is highly naturally formidable. Take it from me. And the privilege some of us have is that we know the whole of this country. There's no part of Nigeria I don't know. There's no state in Nigeria I've not visited about 3, 4, 5 times. And there's no state in Nigeria that I do not know 2/3 of their state. None. When I was NUJ National President, we had a program called National Media Tour. And we took journalists, about 500 journalists under my leadership, to assess. At that time, there was an argument as to whether democracy was good enough or military government. So we wanted to highlight the achievement of governors. So we went around. So those governors opened their doors, and we went around all the states of the Federation. And I got to know the norms and values of countries, of state of Nigeria, our diversity as a people, our strength as a people. Make no mistake about it. There is no part of this country that is not useful. Every part of this country is blessed, and it's a blessed land. Some 10 years ago, some people will be imagining some part of the northern region that they are contributing nothing. Today, ladies and gentlemen, Kogi is oil producing state, Gombe is oil producing state, Bauchi is oil producing state. Today, Zamfara, the gold resources in Zamfara is one of the best in the world. So there's nowhere that is not blessed. I think the problem has to do with leadership and how we administer ourselves. Now to this issue of election that is coming up. I will round up here now before I go to the message of the day. You know, when you invite people like us, we find it difficult to separate politics from our life, you know, because we have been part of it over the years. I was in a church, I was asked to come and praise God, and I say APC. They said, no, we say praise God. I said, I'm sorry. This is already part of our life. Now let me just say this, that the election is coming up. We have 3 candidates. I'm not supporting Shettima and Tinubu because they are APC. Well, I'm not supporting them because they are APC. If I'm not convinced, I will tell you I'm not convinced in these people. But I stick my neck to remain APC because of Ashiwaju and Shettima. And I'll give you my reason. Before you crucify me, let me give you my reason. The 2 other strong contestants, I knew them before now. Obi, very intelligent man, easygoing, God-fearing, visionary. Well, you know, you need more than that to be president of Nigeria. called one of his vice president. I know the peer to the vice president. I said, I want to talk to your brother because Dirty Yusuf that was in the Senate with me before the court removed him. And I said to him, in my state and in many states of the Federation of Nigeria, Labour Party doesn't exist. They don't have a secretariat. On the day of election, sir, your agent will be accredited by INEC. You cannot say we are the structure. No, you will be accredited by INEC. In essence, you cannot go and stand on the polling unit and say, I am Labour Party, I will be there when they are counting. No, your party must exist at the state, at the local government level, and at the world level. In more than 2/3 of the federation, Labour Party doesn't exist. Now let me tell you this. When you are contesting an election, you must know that it is not only you who is contesting. Out of 109 seats of the Senate, Labour Party, I think they have about 15 or 20 people contesting. APC have candidates in all the 109. What is the implication of that? As they are campaigning for themselves, they are campaigning for their party, they are working for their party. In House of Reps, maybe Labour Party is having about 25 or 20 out of 360 something. Now, the question is, when the other are campaigning for their own party, you have only 25 people campaigning for you. Ihu Bayan Hari. So how do you win the election? What is the miracle? You know, when people are talking, we look at them. Politics is not by shouting or people on 25 people on the street, you say there are 2 million people. Politics is beyond that. It's a game of number, my brothers and sisters. It is a game of number. Yesterday we were in Mina. Therefore, yesterday we were in Kaduna. The crowd outside each of the venue were far more than the crowd inside. And I said, which party is existing again in Nigeria, if not APC? Now let me call you say this. You may not like this, I'm sorry. But you see, maybe I've said some things that you clap for me or you admire on my video. But please, stomach this too. Look, they talked about the problem of Nigeria. And I told people, I said, why I will not support Atiku? It's simply the fact that I have not had Atiku condemn banditry in Nigeria or killing of people. I've not had it. Show me where Atiku has condemned the invasion of Nigeria. Just show me. Babu. So how can you tell me my interest and the survival of my people will be guaranteed under your leadership? Mba, it will not work. Politics is about the well-being of the people. Look, one of the programs that the federal government of Nigeria embarked upon in contemporary Nigeria was privatization. Who headed privatization? Atiku. Now, what came out after privatization? We were told that there will be 24-hour power supply. We were told all the roads will be done. Tell me the result of privatization in Nigeria. Our collective wealth was hijacked by some people and they sat up. In the Senate last month, we were discussing the budget. And I said, we need not to borrow money. They said, why? I said, go to the bank. People who have stocked money in the bank and use diplomatic channels, bring all the money that have been stolen. Ask Nigerians who have foreign accounts. They should bring their accounts back to Nigeria. The country is bleeding. Tell MFLA, people who have fixed money in billions, they are in Nigeria. Bring their money to the revamp economy. All those who have bought houses abroad, they should tell us how they bought those houses. I don't have a house outside Nigeria. Maybe tomorrow I can have. And let me tell you this. The fact is that I have only one passport. So when I speak, I want this is my country. And finally, when you say your economy is bleeding, have you asked questions? I mean, I'm sure a good number of people sitting here, you will be planning or you have gone on 2-3 occasions in the last few years on you say holidays abroad. You waste our foreign reserve. Now you say the leaders. I have not left Nigeria in the last 8 years as a senator. I have the money to go, but I'd like to stay in Abuja and spend my money in Abuja than to go to London and spend my money in America. Well, what I'm telling you is that for you to see why some of us are supporting the people who are supporting. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Whatever you see I do and you clap for me, was made possible with the support of Bola Ahmed Tinubu some 15 years ago. So I am a product of Bola Ahmed Tinubu School of Thoughts. Take it or leave it. So why am I telling you this? I'm a Christian. And I'm not from Southwest. I'm from Kogi State, part of Northern region. But when I was contesting, I was looking at the interview and he told somebody, said, this man looks better than all the other ones, even from our place. Say, go and support him. Now, when we come out and we are talking, we are not just talking because we are an APC. Others may be campaigning for candidates because they are an APC. Me smart. I don't believe in you. I will tell Nigeria, I don't believe in you. When the banditry, the insurgency, when they destroy churches in Borno State, the president of the Northeast Christians said to me that Kashim Shettima rebuilt about 36 churches in Borno State. He went further to tell me that every year when Kashim Ibrahim was governor, not less than 250 Christians are sponsored by him to Jerusalem. He went further to tell me that every Christmas and New Year, Kashim Shettima and Easter will package money for all the pastors in Borno State and say, don't announce it. Go and give it to them. You now tell me I should not support Kashim Ibrahim. Why will I not support him? He's supporting my faith. He doesn't oppose all my values. Let me tell you, sir, leave sentiment. Let us look for those who will build upon what we have. Ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum. Let me speak the message of His Excellency, the incoming president of this country, a man of honor, a man of high integrity, Kashim Ibrahim Shettima. He said, I should listen to the book reviewer. And I must commend Prof, well articulated. As we were speaking to us, if I was reading the book, you know. Let me commend the author for your courage, your vision. If you want to keep learning, you must keep reading. Just keep reading. That is how to learn. And that is how to have good memory and erase misconceptions and misrepresentations if you read. Under this administration, President Muhammadu Buhari had 2 battles which he fought and is still fighting up to this moment. We thank God things are getting better. The insurgencies have been, to a large extent, crippled. While the banditry was on, we were fighting the second war of oil theft, the problem of Niger Delta.